Pakrao speaks with the Breakfast Club. He's a patriot, he's a trainer, he's a legend, he's also a person of interest.
All right, and after that, what we've been bringing you every day this week, some delicious Diwali recipes, but these are delicious and healthy too. Rice, spice and everything nice. With Chef Hema, we bring you rice crackers, but these ones are gluten-free. How do you actually do that? We'll show you right here on the show.
And did you know that Diwali's darkest night holds its brightest secret? The Govardhan Puja to Bhai Dooj. What exactly is the significance behind all the rituals we've been performing for decades? We sit down with Bani Singh Chadha to understand the beautiful stories and the heritage behind our culture and this festival. Now, it's a festival season. There are lots of orders, deliveries, lots of OTPs getting exchanged, but so are digital frauds and scams. So today on day 5 of our festival series, we want to bring your information about the latest digital fraud doing the rounds. So you can stay aware and there is no dampener this Diwali. Now, you might have seen several of these all around you. Scams that have been happening, job openings on social media apps, jobs that will take you abroad. These are jobs mainly focused on the young people looking for high-paying jobs like data entry, customer service, digital marketing as well. They're all the buzzwords, only to land up in a different country, passport confiscated, forced to perform cyber crimes from a foreign land. And this is a new kind of fraud called digital slavery.
Right. Digital slavery, it's in fact a type of trafficking, and it typically targets people from Bangladesh, from India and from Nepal for the obvious reason. These are people who are often more susceptible, largely because of higher rates of unemployment in these countries and what looks like lower cost of living, higher employment that these countries seem to offer, the countries in the southeast region. Now, the numbers, if you just take a look, are astonishing. And remember, this is a larger problem that we discuss often on TBC. If you just take a look at the numbers, India already faces a significant challenge from cyber-related fraud. We'll pull up a number there. 1,750 crores has already been siphoned off in just the first few months of 2024 in cyber-related frauds. Another number for you. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs, between Jan 2022 and May 2024, so that's a little more than 2 years, more than 29,000 Indian nationals have gone missing in Southeast Asia. And what a new report believes is that many of this 29,000 are believed to be trapped in different kinds of cyber slavery.
29,000. Now that's a big number,
Right.
and these are just the reported figures. Remember, we don't know how big this will really get, but let's understand this in a little bit more details. And I'm sure there are lots of questions that you have on your mind as well. Joining us this morning is Brajesh Singh. He's a special secretary to Maharashtra CM and has written a book on Cloud Chariot, that's also just come out in a few moments from now. We'll be joined by Kanishk Kaur. He's a cyber security expert. Mr. Singh, take us through a few more details here. We're looking at not just a one-time fraud, but a syndicate here. We are looking at a very organized way of crime in which people have been, their tickets are paid for, their passports are given the right kind of visa. So this goes at a very deep level. What more can you tell us about how this operates and which countries are people being taken to?
This is bizarre, ironic and complicated. You see, the scale of these operations spans multiple countries, and it involves traffickers, criminals, money launderers, cyber fraudsters. And what they have done is an enablement of an entire criminal infrastructure. This has all the trappings of an organized, international crime syndicate. So earlier you used to have organized crime. This is an organized cybercrime syndicate. And what they are doing is that they are building these massive cybercrime infrastructures. Now, what is done is that people are lured under the guise of very lucrative jobs, and these are fresh graduates, people who are literate, people who can speak English. A whole set of numbers is taken from India through violating KYC norms. These numbers, SIM cards, are then taken to these foreign countries where these people are then our people are used to scam our own citizen. And it is so strange that this is being held in large compounds. So in that this happening in Myanmar, it is happening in Cambodia, and initially these people are trafficked to Thailand. From there, their travel documents are confiscated, and then they are taken to these compounds where they are kept in inhuman conditions. They are made to work 12 to 16 hours. They do not have any contact with their families. It's really sad, and the scale is gargantuan. Uh, Union Ministry of Home Affairs has taken several steps regarding this. There's an interministerial coordination committee. Steps for awareness are being taken, but still, I think the proportion of this kind of slavery remains still huge.
Mr. Singh, tell us what systematic loopholes right now still exist. So, in the system, for example, for you as someone who works in law enforcement, where is there room for improvement?
See, primarily what is happening is that the offers for these jobs are not coming through regular channels. They are coming on encrypted messengers, they're coming from social media channels. Now, there is no mechanism to monitor this. And you see, the cyberspace is always a delicate place to monitor because it's a question of rights versus, freedoms. And also the capability and capacity of agencies to monitor such a huge space. So I don't think that there is any monitoring like this going on wherein you are able to sift these messages and find out what is happening, where people are being lured with false jobs. And hence, due to this anonymity, it becomes very, very difficult to find out or prevent when these offers are being made. Once this is being done, there is also a layer where legit businesses are being used. So, travel agents or people who facilitate visa or people who facilitate money transfers, all this is legit. But these legit businesses are being used for these nefarious purposes. So the very anonymity makes it very, very difficult. Also, it is in guise of legit business. And they are using very professional looking services. So interviews are conducted by people who appear to be very, very legit. And this all is okay till the person is transported to Thailand. Then, the horror starts where their passports and travel documents are confiscated and just they are whisked away to Thailand. So it's difficult to prevent because there is anonymity, there is jurisdictional arbitrage, and it is happening, at the level of individuals. So unless and until somebody reports, it's difficult to find out and prevent. Though measures for awareness are being taken, there is also a dedicated portal from where the government is asking people to identify which company you are going at, and the government is ready to do the due diligence, find out whether that company is paying taxes, whether that company is properly registered, what kind of contracts are they sending, is it a legit company, what business they are engaged in, is your job offer commensurate to your capabilities, your educational qualifications. So there are these red flags also regarding which people are being trained, but still the proportion of the problem remains huge.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the genesis of it all is just desperation, right? These are desperate. I was looking at the report which talked about the demographic of people who've been trapped in this. These are desperate people looking for a job from tier 1, tier 2 cities. They have the education, they have the qualification, and they feel they're fulfilling their dreams and uplifting their families by traveling abroad and earning big, only to land up through a scam to scam others, which is the other end of what I want to get to, Mr. Singh, as well. On the other side, what's happening is that while they have, through coercion and the rest of it, they are made to defraud more people.
Yes. Yes. So the irony is that Um, See, cybercrime and cyber frauds today depend mostly on social engineering. So in cybercrime, technical means are used, but they are less. Almost three-fourths of cybercrime happens because of social engineering. Social engineering is basically using psychological measures, using fake profiles to basically lure others. So these can be cryptocurrency scams, these can be trading scams, these can be fake loan app scams, and there are hundreds of such romance scams where fake profiles are built and people are lured and they are made to part with their money. And once this is done, then all contact is broken off and people are ghosted. The very scale of these operations is that each of these poor trapped cyber slave victims are made to earn for these compounds to the tune of $10,000 to $15,000 per day. And irony is that these compounds exist in some countries in special economic zones where law enforcement finds difficulty because SEZs have different enforcement mechanisms. It also seems that in some of these countries there may be some collusion with local law enforcement, corruption, because operations of these scale where people in lakhs are being trapped and being utilized as a cybercrime infrastructure cannot go unnoticed. There's also a report by Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights on this subject. And if you look at this, it talks about lakhs of people being trapped in Myanmar and in Cambodia and in also Laos. So I believe that there is enough evidence now that this is of a large scale. There needs to be an international crackdown on this, and sooner the better.
Okay, let's just also go to Kanish Gaur. He joins us now. He's the cybersecurity expert who has propelled the entire report, the data we shared with you right at the start of the show that's come from that report. Kanish, tell our audiences this. It's obviously very, very hard to estimate the number of Indians that might directly be affected by cyber slavery. The number that we shared with our audiences is the number of Indians that have gone missing, right? But how many of those may be involved in cyber slavery? It's very hard to put a number on it, obviously, for understandable reasons. But just to illustrate for our audiences how broad, how vast this issue is.
See, there are more than 10,000 Indians who are involved in this, and they are operating from countries like Cambodia, Laos, right now. And these people are now targeting the Indian diaspora at a massive level, right from digital arrest to butchering scams. So the impact is immense. The bigger issue is, it is not just people who are enslaved and doing it, they are people who are doing it on purpose and don't want to come back. So in compounds in Cambodia, we see people are operating organized call centers where they have team leads, they have HR, and these people are guiding them in terms of using new techniques for committing cybercrime, and these people don't want to come back. These people make $1,500 to $2,000 a month, which is good enough for them. They get Indian food and they are also allowed to move out of the compound. So certain compounds, there are restrictions in terms of moving out or going out, but certain places these people can still move out, take a break and come back. So it's not that there are people who are enslaved and are doing it, pushed into it. There are people who are happy and doing it. So a lot of people today get paid. So social media influencers today get paid to do this and sending people to these countries, and it is happening openly through social media platforms like Facebook. So one can look for jobs on Facebook in Cambodia. One can look for Telegram channels where you will find tremendous jobs, and they are openly telling that they are targeting people in India and in the US and in the UK, and they can join them, and they are telling that this scam is a cyber scam, particularly focused on cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens.
Okay.
Right. Kanishk, you're saying some very important things over here, and lots to sort of unpack from what you've just said. A couple of people you're saying actually not just targeted, it's not just trafficking or slavery of sorts. This is a choice that they're making. I'm sure desperate conditions sort of force people to do desperate things. But at this point, the most baffling thing about this scam is that it's not about this one city or one place in Bihar where it's happening. It's not just about interstate operations. These are international operations. So what exactly are we doing? And if this is public knowledge, what are countries like Cambodia doing? What are countries like Thailand doing about it?
So there have been crackdowns by countries like China because they were also targeting China. But I think there has to be more effort which has to be done at an international level, and Indian government will also have to take it at a larger scale with the government of Cambodia. What happens now is people go on visa on arrival, which you can get for visiting countries like Thailand. And then there are buses which are set up by these threat actors where people will go by road to Cambodia and then join a gang where they'll be trained to commit cybercrime, told how they need to commit cybercrime. They're actually today looking for female models who could be used for sextortion. So it is not just they are looking for people who are looking for jobs or are freshers, but they are looking for people who've got experience in modeling or could be used for any kind of honey trap as well. So the level of sophistication has increased.
Kanishk, can we ask you to do one more thing for our audiences? The report goes into depth about the various kinds of cyber scams that exist. You used a word right now, butchering, and that is a reference to pig butchering, which is one of the many different kinds of scams that are pulled on people. Now, obviously, our audience is watching. Just from the awareness perspective, lay out for our audiences the different kinds of cyber scams that are taking place, that can take place, and how they can prepare themselves.
Sure. So there are a lot of these new investment apps which come in, which tell that people can invest money on these apps, and these could be trading apps, and they will direct you to download this app from a Play Store, and initially you will make some profit, 20%, 30%, and the app will show you have made a lot of profit, and you will be added to a group. Now the other people in the group are conspiring to commit this fraud. So you will see the other people are making money, but as soon as you make profit once or twice, you will be forced to put in more money. As soon as you put 2.5 lakh, 5 lakhs, 7 lakhs or 10 lakhs, you will not be able to withdraw the amount. So they are using the greed as a mechanism for taking out money. And when you report, after a certain point of time, the app will disappear from the Play Store, because a lot of people would have reported it that this app is committing cyber fraud, but lakhs of people would have already lost money. So that's one of the pig butchering scams that we are talking about. The other is non-fungible token and cryptocurrency based frauds, where people are again told to invest in cryptocurrencies, go on specific website stating this is a new cryptocurrency which has come in and people are making tons of money, and you will be told to convert your money through a crypto wallet and invest in a new cryptocurrency. Now a lot of people will find that these websites look as legitimate websites because they will not have Indian addresses, they will have addresses from Europe, Luxembourg, or even have UK addresses. But these websites would be fraudulent websites. As soon as people invest in money, they will not be able to take the money out. So this is primarily on emerging technologies. We don't know where these businesses are set up. And there will also be a lot of deepfake videos which they will create of popular celebrities, of people who are financial advisors at times. Another aspect which we are seeing is a lot of social media influencers who are very popular today are used and they don't even know. So in case of pig butchering scam, there were apps where social media influencers were used, and a lot of people lost money recently.
Yeah. Kanish, can I ask you this? You know, when cryptocurrency had come in, there are some legitimate apps as well. But the basic criteria as somebody consuming it would be that if there is a KYC, I'm sorted. If if there is a KYC that is required by the platform, if there is a legitimate sort of a process in place, that I'm okay, that I can trust this app. Is that not the case anymore?
See, KYC would allow you to move your money to a wallet, but the cryptocurrency ecosystem remains fragile. 99.9% of the cryptocurrencies are fraudulent scams. You don't know these cryptocurrencies are going to be there in the longer run. They die their eventual death. and a lot of them are set up in a way that people lose tremendous amount of money. So it is basically a fuzz which is created today. Like we used to have for IPO, today there is something called as ICO, initial coin offering, where people are told that they will make tremendous amount of money once the ICO happens. And after a week, it will just disappear, and you don't know where it is set up from. You will see addresses, you will see chatbots, but they will just disappear. That's why there has been a global crackdown on cryptocurrencies. So there's nothing legitimate about cryptocurrencies. There could be certain coins which could be stable, but in the longer run, it is very difficult to basically legalize or regulate cryptocurrencies. That's one of the big issues. That's why cyber fraudsters use some of these cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens as well.
Yeah, but crypto is just one aspect of it actually, and our colleague Yash has been doing constant investigations on these various frauds and bringing everybody up to speed with that. Thank you both for joining us. If I were to just sum up the key takeaways from here, number one, even if the job offer that you're getting online seems like too good to be true, please double check, ensure you're speaking with people, have a third party verification done. You don't want to land up in a country with your passport gone, not knowing what to do. So this Diwali, as you go out and in the holiday chair and in the festive chair, you go exchange lots of OTPs, be very, very careful.
Right, be careful. And I love that message, especially tied into Diwali and the rest of the holiday season when we continue to make orders online. Okay, we're going to head into a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're shifting focus entirely. We're taking you to the story of Major Rao, the strike to kill. So we'll be talking a little bit about how he reviewed the Amars system. He suggested improvements, what those improvements look like, and his secret to mental resilience. That and more on the other side.
विचार
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years, and two crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story.
Welcome back. It's time to take a check on our pollution meter, and Delhi's air quality has taken a turn for the worse. The pollution levels are hazardous and we are seeing alarming numbers across the city. Let's start with Mundka and what numbers are being reported this morning. The air quality index there fell to 241. Anand Vihar is at 329, all in those deep reds. These numbers are a stark reminder of an urgent need for collective action.
Right, Narela, we'll pull those numbers up for you, is at 290. And then if you check both of Delhi's neighbors, Noida's at 247, Gurgaon is at 177. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we must prioritize our health. You can already probably hear some of the fireworks going off at night. Stay away from fireworks as much as you can. In this time, stay indoors, avoid walks if you can, and any kind of outdoor activity as we track all of these numbers. Yeah. Wear masks, use air purifiers, and stay hydrated.
All right, on to our person of interest. Today we honor a hero who's redefined close combat. Meet the honorary Major Deepak Rao, a civilian turned commando trainer, celebrated for developing innovative techniques that empower India's brave hearts. Now, what happened? Now, in 2011, Major Rao received a unique honor for his 20 years contribution to modernizing close quarter battle. His expertise led to the Indian Army adopting some of his methods.
Right, so a little bit of us taking you back into history. Post the Galwan Valley skirmish, the army created its indigenous martial art, Amar, AMAR, the Army Martial Arts Routine. And in 2023, Major Rao was actually invited to enhance Amar's entire curriculum. So he was invited to suggest any improvements. At 60, he achieved a milestone. He added specialized termination techniques to Amar. We'll talk a little bit more about that. He also has a book, Strike to Kill, that reveals exactly these strategies. Major Rao joins us. He's going to be sharing his incredible journey with us. He's sharing the secrets behind what he thinks are Amar's efficiencies. Let's go over to him to understand a little bit more. Major, good morning. Thank you for joining us right here on CNN News 18. It's so lovely to see you bright and early. You were given this honor. We just told our audiences it's a unique honor. Very few civilians have been given it. You were given it in 2011. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And can you also tell us, we're telling our audiences you developed this unique form of combat. Tell us a little bit more about it.
See, in 2011, I was given honorary commission into the Indian Army TA, the Para Regiment TA Battalion, along with the MS Dhoni and along with Abhinav Bindra. I was given this honor because I helped in modernization of close quarter battle for the Indian Army, and I spent almost 2 decades of my life helping modernize close quarter battle. My contribution was that of helping reflex shooting. You know, during World War II and all other wars, the enemy is at a distance of 300 yards or more. Now, we are used to, aiming your rifle, aligning foresight and hindsight, and then taking a shot. You see, but at close quarter battle is a battle within 30 yards. The enemy is face to face right there in front of you. So there we require newer methods of aiming. We require to bring the rifle down quickly and shoot off without, too much time on protracted aiming. And we need to develop methods of fighting at close quarters. That is, tactics and sentry termination and many other things. So I spent 2 decades of my life helping bring this modernization, and that is the reason why I was given this honor.
All right. Sir, also, Amar was, from what we've read up, a form of martial arts introduced to the army, right, a few years ago. And you were not part of the development process, but you did review it later. What more can you tell us about Amar?
Yeah, you're right. I was not part of development of Amar, and all that I would be telling you would be based on general knowledge rather than making a statement on behalf of the armed forces. You see, the Galwan Valley skirmish, that is when Indian forces and Chinese forces came nose to nose, where they indulged in hand-to-hand combat, and one commanding officer and 20 troops lost their lives in hand-to-hand battle, where there were no firearms. When this skirmish occurred, there was a strong need felt to develop our own martial art routine, to dedicate certain amount of training time to unarmed combat. And the army then, decided to do this. And I guess at AIPT, that is Army Institute of Physical Training, you see various martial artists were brought, and there was a board of senior officials who sat down and took the absorbed useful techniques and helped in making Amar, that is Army Martial Arts routine. This Army Martial Arts routine was announced by the Chief of Army Staff as a runner-up for Army Day in January 2023. So this is what we all know. And finally, in Jan 2023, the Indian Army had its own martial arts routine, which I think is really a commendable effort.
So if we could ask you, Major Rao, as we told our audiences a little earlier, and as you've just said, you were invited to come in to review what Amar is and to suggest improvements. Can you tell us a little bit about what you thought when you came in to review it, but also tell us what you suggested finally?
Yes, like I said, I had a meeting with the Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, about Amar after it was, developed and introduced. And he suggested that I go and review it at AIPT and suggest improvements. So Amar was, according to my report, Amar was an excellent system which was devised, state of the art. And there weren't many improvements that I could suggest to it other than adding terminations. Like I wanted, Amar to focus more on terminations, art of killing. And I gave certain, suggestions. I gave list of techniques which could be used to silence.
Right. So interesting there, but sir, one can't, get past the fact that you are 60. You've had a lifelong commitment for physical fitness as well, is what we hear. What would you, and in fact, how did you sort of begin on this journey?
Well, I've always been interested in physical fitness, and I've always been interested in, in Indian Army. So I spent my life blending these two interests, and I acquired expertise in close quarter battle by traveling to various countries. And then I made it the quest of my life to bring about those innovations into the Indian Armed Forces. You would visit, various forces. I would visit the paramilitary. I would visit the Indian Army, the Indian Air Force, and Indian Navy, especially commando units. And I would spread, my technical skills and my knowledge about close quarter battle without compensation. So I spent about 20 years of my life just doing that. right from till 47 years of age, I would be moving around place to place, just helping modernization. The army headquarters, got heard about me, and then they decided to felicitate me with the rank. So, physical fitness is extremely important part of my life.
Let's just tell our audiences, if you want to read more about the particular form of combat that Major Rao has developed, more about his techniques, he does have a book out, Strike to Kill, where you can read more about it. But Major Rao, before we let you go, one last little piece of advice we'll ask you to give our audiences. Behind all of this physicality, it's very clear that there's great mental resilience. What's your secret to developing mental resilience?
Now, I'll answer this in two parts. First, what is discipline? Discipline is training your body by exercise, eating well, sleeping well, following diurnal rhythms. You wake up with sunrise and you retire after the sun sets, and not the other way around. Not that you sit watching TV, not that you sit on your mobile phone as soon as you get up. So, following light rhythms. And meditating. I have a very simple mantra for you. Tesla, he is training. E is eating well. S is getting your 8 hours or 7 hours of sleep. L is proper light exposure. You get up in the morning, expose yourself to sunrise, and after sunset, you make sure that you put down your mobile phone, your laptop, your movies, your TV aside. And A is for Om. You see that you contemplate, you meditate, and you get better mental health. So my mantra for discipline is Tesla. As far as martial arts is concerned, see, the martial arts ideology is very simple. The martial artist thinks everything in life is a fight. Everything in life is a fight, and therefore there is always a way out. And you just have to be patient, and you just have to keep exploring till you find that way. So everything in life is a battle, and you have to fight it out, till you emerge either victorious or till you learn from your defeat. So that is the basic martial arts ideology which can be used by almost anybody out there in society.
All right, Elon Musk is going to smile at that analogy, but thank you, sir, for joining us this morning with those pearls of wisdom. Combat could be at the border or even in everyday life, but these tips really go a long, long way. On that note, let's get into a quick break. Coming up on the other side, all things rice, spice and nice. We're getting into a healthy snacking segment with Chef Hema. Come right back for that.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and two crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020.
That's both onion and garlic free, making it ideal for all special days, for vrats also. So it's through this season, this timeless recipes been passed down from generations. What we're going to see right now is Hema Subramanian's expert guidance that's going to make it easy for you to replicate this at home, as she does for her millions of followers every day. Get ready to indulge with these delicious, these crunchy rice crackers that stay fresh for up to 5 days. Take a look.
Hello everyone, I'm Hema Subramanian and today on the Breakfast Club, I'm going to show you how to make this South Indian style crispy savory snacks called tatte, otherwise known as rice crackers. This is a gluten-free recipe, so let's get started and check it out. I have all the ingredients ready for making the rice crackers here. So first we need to make a masala paste for this recipe. To the mixer jar, I'm adding a few curry leaves, 1 finely chopped piece of ginger and 3 roughly chopped green chilies. We have to coarsely grind this without adding any water. Remove the mixture that's stuck to the sides and then grind it again. So if you see, the masala mixture for the rice crackers is ready now. Now it has to be coarse like this. Keep this aside. So next, for making the dough, we need to take 2 cups of rice flour in a large bowl. To this, add about 1/4 cup of soaked chana dal. Now I have soaked it in water for about an hour. Next, add the ground green chili, ginger and curry leaves paste. This is the main part of this recipe because all the flavor comes from this paste alone. Now add 1 teaspoon of salt, half teaspoon turmeric powder, 2 teaspoons Kashmiri red chili powder, 1 teaspoon cumin seeds, 2 teaspoons sesame seeds, quarter teaspoon asafoetida powder and 2 teaspoons unsalted butter. I've added all the required items here. So now I'm just going to mix everything together. So now I'm going to add nice hot boiling water to this in order to prepare a chapati like dough. Gradually add this hot water to get a perfect consistency. Now make sure you mix with a spatula or a plain ladle to avoid any burns on your hands. After 1 to 2 minutes, the extreme heat comes down and then you can just mix it with your hands. If you let it completely cool, it will become very dry. So try preparing the dough while it's still a little hot. The dough is ready now, so you can keep it aside for at least 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, pour enough oil to a kadai for deep frying and just heat it. In the meantime, spread some oil over a banana leaf and place a little portion of the dough here. Now gently press the dough and flatten it with your hands. Now you can also moisten your hands at intervals to work with the dough easily. So after you gently press it evenly, if you can see, the dough will be nice and flat like this. Don't make it too thick or too thin. Once the oil is hot, gently drop in the pressed dough. Flip the rice crackers gently to make sure that they are fried evenly on both sides. So this will take some time to fry because it has to cook through. Once they are golden brown on all sides, remove them from the kadai. So your crispy rice crackers, that is the rice tatte, are ready to be enjoyed. Now you can store these rice crackers in an airtight container and enjoy them for more than about 4 to 5 days. Make sure you cool these crackers completely before storing. You can make these on normal days or you can also prepare these for special festivals too. Wow, the rice crackers are so crispy and so tasty. The key is to deep fry them slowly so that you get this lovely rich brown color and they turn nice and crispy. Now this is a gluten-free snack that you can enjoy this festive season. Do give it a try, share it with your family and friends and keep watching The Breakfast Club.
All right, so do give those recipes a try and let us know how they turned out. But as we talk about Diwali, today let's also look into the significance of some of the days that Diwali has. Now, yesterday we spoke about Dhanteras and Choti Diwali, and what comes after that is the Day of Light, it's Diwali. But did you know that Diwali is actually the darkest night of the year? And one of the reasons why we light diyas on this day. And also puja is performed after sunset.
So after Diwali, remember, comes Govardhan Puja, then there's Bhai Dooj. But what exactly is the relevance of each of the days we're talking about? And what are some of the practices that actually you can follow, and not just you and your family together, to bring in that auspiciousness? We have with us once again on the show renowned astrologer Bani Singh Chadda. She's going to break it all down for us. Take a look.
Here's wishing you all an abundant festive season. Well, let's start with what we can do on the day of Diwali, the day that Lord Ram came back to Ayodhya with Ma Sita and his brother Lakshmanji. Now, on this day, it's very auspicious to start the day by offering prayers to Lakshmi Ji. And along with Lakshmi Ji, we also offer prayers to her consort, her husband, Bhagwan Vishnu. So, offering prayers to both Lakshmi Narayan. Now, on this day, when you do set up your puja place, remember to offer prayers to Ganesh Ji first, because he removes our obstacles and hurdles. Then Lakshmi Narayan, because they bring wealth and prosperity in our lives and they fulfill all of our desires. But don't forget to worship Ma Saraswati, because she's the one who helps us handle this wealth with wisdom so that it doesn't go to our heads. Now, just like you would welcome your loved ones to your house by beautifying it and by decorating it, in the same way, with the same sentiment, welcome the divine into your house. Ma Lakshmi loves the lotus flower, so put lotus flower right outside your house, right at the entrance. When you offer her naivedya or bhog, do that with kheer. She loves rose ittar, so offer her all of these things which are her favorite. She also loves the pomegranate fruit. Now you know that Ganapati loves laddu, that's something you must offer him, and chandan ittar. When you light your diya, then it should be a cow's ghee diya. And to Ma Saraswati, you can make some homemade prasad and offer it as bhog. She loves the mogra flowers and the smell of jasmine, so you can offer that as ittar to her as well. And in the evening, when you sit down for your prayers, you start by offering prayers to Ganapati ji, then Lakshmi Narayan, and then finally to Kuber and Ma Saraswati. Now after you finish your aarti, you light your home with diyas, and you can light sesame oil diyas all over the dark places in your home, and keep your house well lit through the night, because you know that Lakshmi ji comes at night. Midnight is a very special time on Diwali night to offer prayers to both Ma Lakshmi and Lord Vishnu. The day after Diwali, we celebrate Govardhan Puja. It's called by different names in different parts of the country. It's called Annakut Puja or Annapurna Puja. This is the day we offer prayers to Ma Annapurna, so that there's no scarcity of food in our lives. This is also the day that Bhagwan Krishna lifted mountain of Govardhan with his little finger to save the people of Vrindavan from the wrath of Lord Indra. So it's very important to offer prayers and seek the blessings of Lord Krishna this day. You can do an Abhishek of Bhagwan Krishna. This is also a very auspicious day to do some seva to cows. Now the final and last day of Diwali is Yama Dvitiya. It's also called Bhai Dooj, and this is the day that brothers visit their sisters' homes with gifts and spend time and bond with them. Yamraji and the river Yamuna are twins and they're brother-sister. This is the day that he visited his sister because she'd been complaining to him that you're so busy in your duties. He is Dharmaraj. So she'd been complaining to him that you don't come and see me. So on this day, on Yama Dvitiya, he went and visited his sister, and from that day on, any brother who visits his sister this day gets the blessings of Bhagwan Yamraj of health, wealth and longevity. On this day, it's also very auspicious to look at the moon. In fact, every Dvitiya, it's very auspicious, but this is extra special because this Dvitiya represents the special bond between a brother and a sister.
All right, next we bring you a special segment on the financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's start with markets and how they're pegged to open this morning. GIFT Nifty trends indicate a muted beginning for the Indian equities. Today, Asian markets were trading bigs today ahead of Japan's election. US equity indices gained slightly amid choppy trade, amid strong corporate results. Crude oil prices were trading firm as investors kept an eye on Middle East developments.
And let's take a look at one sector in particular. What we're going to be taking a look at today is electronic manufacturing services. There is sunshine industry right now. They're growing at a rapid pace. Mobile phone manufacturing is scaling up with speed. Companies are also getting into the manufacturing ecosystem. This includes expanding into precision components, mechanicals and camera modules to improving share in the mobile value chain. The other growth area is IT hardware and laptops to take full advantage of the government's current existing PLI scheme. Remember, you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about what's in store for India's electronics and allied sectors, but also in general, various other actionable insights on markets. Money Control Pro is the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need. Brought to you, of course, as we said, by Money Control.
All right, with that, we're gonna call this week's and today's episode a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this entire festival series, which will continue into the next week. Toya, will see you on Monday.
Right, and don't forget this weekend as you go out to meet your relatives, to meet your friends, don't forget some of the healthy snacking tips we've told you all about. We'll see you on the other side on Monday. Goodbye.
कॉलेज बोले तो दोस्ती यारी यारों संग है फ्रीडम सारी फ्रीडम equals time of life life माने act joy right Activa 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 स्कूटर ले Activa
स्कूटर बोले तो
विचार
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and 2 crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok.
Good morning viewers, hello and welcome to the Morning News Show where we bring you the latest headlines and insightful stories to kickstart your day. I'm Koina Sharma and you are watching CNN News 18. First up on top of this bulletin, we're tracking some updates from Jammu and Kashmir, where in a brazen terror attack near the Nagin post in Gulmar, 2 army personnel and 2 civilian potters were actually killed. Now this attack comes amid rising violence in Jammu and Kashmir, just hours after a shooting in Pulwama happened and days after the Gandarbal tragedy. Now this attack occurred near Nagin post, leaving 2 more soldiers injured, who are now receiving medical treatment in a hospital. This incident comes on the heels of another attack in Pulwama, where a labourer was actually shot and injured just hours earlier, days after terror attack in Gandarbal took place. Now in response, a large-scale search operation is actually underway in the nearby forests to track down the terrorists. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has condemned the entire attack, calling the recent surge in violence a serious concern.
ये बड़े अफसोस की बात है, इसकी जितनी मजम्मत करें वो कम है। जैसे कि आपने देखा बिल्कुल बेगुनाह लोगों को गगनगिर में जो है परसों उनकी जानें ज़ाया हुई। उसमें एक डॉक्टर भी थे जो बडगाम कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी से ताल्लुक़ रखते थे और हमारे जम्मू से कुछ लोग थे और बाहर के जो आए हुए थे उनसे, और ज़ख्मी काफ़ी लोग थे उसमें। हम तो चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब वहाँ खुद भी गए थे सोरा उनको देखने। पिछले 30-35 साल से हम इस मुसीबत में घिरे हुए हैं और उम्मीद थी कि जैसे पहले भी इन्होंने कहा था कि काफ़ी सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन जो है वो कंट्रोल में आ गई है, लेकिन ग्राउंड की हकीकत कुछ और है। आज जैसे जो खबर आई है गुलमर्ग में जो नागिन एरिया है वहाँ हमला हुआ आर्मी पे, इसकी तो और भी ज़्यादा तशवीश है क्योंकि ये बिल्कुल सिक्योर्ड एरिया है, आर्मी के वहाँ बहुत प्रेजेंस है। वहाँ इस किस्म के हमले होना काफ़ी तशवीश की बात है। इसमें इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि यहाँ रियासत को बहाल करना बहुत ज़रूरी है।
एक तरफ हम कह रहे हैं कि हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान को आपस में बातचीत का अमल शुरू करना चाहिए, तो दूसरी तरफ इस तरह के हमले किस तरह देख रहे हैं?
देखिए, बातचीत का जो सिलसिला, जैसे अभी हमारे फॉरेन मिनिस्टर वहाँ गए थे तो वहाँ के जो लीडर हैं नवाज शरीफ साहब, उन्होंने भी कहा था कि उन्होंने काफ़ी वक्त ज़ाया किया है और एक तरह से उन्होंने अपनी गलती का एतराफ़ भी किया। अगर उनको लगता है कि उनकी जो कंडक्ट रही वो सही नहीं है तो उम्मीद करेंगे कि वो इन चीज़ों को बढ़ावा ना दें।
Well, joining us on the broadcast is Ishan Wani. A very good morning, Ishan. Ishan, Nagin Post is a strategically important location because of its proximity to the line of control. But how does this proximity to the LOC and Gulmarg heighten its importance, especially in terms of the security operations that are ongoing on the ground?
Gulmarg has been peaceful for many years. For at least 2 decades, we haven't seen any such incident take place in Gulmarg, and that's why the guard was down. There was vigilance definitely, but by and large, there was peace in this particular sector. The area is at least 10 kilometers ahead of Gulmarg, and that has resulted in security enhancement in this area. Even if you look at right now, you will notice here that security forces are checking every vehicle is being frisked, which is going towards that particular area, that particular spot in Gulmarg. Though the J&K police is ensuring that they are able to ensure that all the vehicles which go through this particular area are properly checked. But if you talk about Gulmarg, it's a very important bowl shaped area which has one side touching towards Poonch and Rajouri, where we have seen such frequent attacks take place. Then on the other side, it also has a running line of control, and there are posts, like I mentioned, the Nagin post, and there are other posts of the Indian Army which connect generally to the line of control in Kashmir Valley. And this has been a traditional route of Jaish-e-Mohammed outfit in the 90s, and this has been one of the key areas for them to infiltrate. But last 20 years have been by and large peaceful in these areas. Yesterday's attack has come as a surprise for the security establishment, given the fact that they felt that these areas are generally secure and there wouldn't be much activity taking place there. But now as we speak, there is extra vigilance, forces have been moved, there's a combing operation going on in the area. What we have learned from our sources, the Indian Army has moved several army officers and officials there to ensure that from the ground they are able to look at the situation. Even if you look at it right now, our top army officials are visiting the spot and are coming out after visiting the area. They're trying to get an on-hand ground assessment of the situation that has unfolded there. There's a large presence of the Indian Army in this particular area. They're trying to ensure that the combing operation and the search operation that is going on goes smoothly, and they're able to trap these militants down. But as has been the case in Rajouri and Poonch, that after attacking and opening fire, they just disappear in the mountains and woods. The advantage is that there are forests, there are woods around that particular area that gives them an advantage of trying to disappear in these woods. We have seen it in Sonal Sonmarg that an attack was carried out just parallel to the mountain range, and in Gulmarg also in Botapatri area, that attack was carried out in an area which is close to the mountain range. So that is why these attacks are something where security forces are alarmed. And just yesterday, Unified High Command meeting was chaired by Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha, where all the top officials of the army, intelligence, police, paramilitary forces discussed and gave their assessment of how the things are. But yes, there's extra vigilance. Forces are being moved to the area to ensure that the operation is conducted smoothly. 2 army soldiers have been killed in action. 2 porters who were army had employed for the daily routine work have also died, who belong to the neighboring Uri in Baramulla district. And apart from them, 2 army soldiers are being treated at the hospital, and 1 porter is also injured. So yes, the situation is very fragile. If we talk about the sort of attacks that have been carried out, both of them have come as a surprise for the security force and establishment in Kashmir. Sonmarg was peaceful, and then attack taking place there, and now when there was peace in Gulmarg as well, ahead of Gulmarg actually in Botapatri, there the peace has been broken, and that has resulted in security concern for the security force and agencies, primarily for the J&K police and other paramilitary forces operating in Jammu and Kashmir, and trying to ensure they are able to neutralize these militants who are responsible for carrying out these attacks. There's also an internal assessment going on whether these militants had come in from Poonch Rajouri, because it's not far away from there, and the sort of attack and the sort of the footprints are the prints that are visible at the moment. It seems like it's a similar kind of attack that we have seen happening in Poonch and Rajouri, and that is what is alarming, because they have been very professional in their attacks. They have carried out large scale attacks and conducted these attacks in Rajouri, Poonch, and inflicted maximum casualties on the security forces. So because of the winter being very close and the passes getting closed because of the snowfall, they will try to navigate through and possibly can try to enter Kashmir and try to occupy these hills now in Kashmir Valley as well. For the last 2 months there has been a brief lull. Not a lot of attacks took place between the time when elections took place and the SCO meeting was going on. But as soon as these 2 things got over, what we saw what happened in Gagangir area of Sonmarg, where a carnage was, there was a carnage actually, where 7 employees, including 1 doctor, was shot at and killed. So yes, it's a concern. Now one has to see how the security forces will be able to deal with the situation.
Right, Ishan, with tightened security in vulnerable areas and given the circumstances, the sensitivity of the situation, how is the newly formed government in Jammu and Kashmir trying to address the rising threat of terrorism, especially in regions that are very close to the LOC?
Well, first we have to understand that the police and law and order is under the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. During the last few years, you have seen that there has been a massive crackdown on the infrastructure, and the government yesterday, under the Chief Minister Umar Abdullah, met Defence Minister, he met Home Minister, he met Prime Minister. With the Defence Minister, he talked about several key situation aspects of Kashmir Valley just yesterday. And Lieutenant Governor also chaired meeting with the top officials of the army, police, paramilitary forces, because that comes under the Lieutenant Governor J&K as a UT, and there has been a growing demand from the regional political parties that the statehood should be returned to Jammu and Kashmir so that the law and order remains under the Chief Minister and the newly elected government. But let's see what happens in that case, because yesterday a resolution was also given to the Prime Minister about restoring statehood. But for now, the government, the police and law and order is continuing to be under the Lieutenant Governor, who has just chaired meeting yesterday and passed on directions to ensure that the operations are done, night patrolling is done, and all those vulnerable areas where there's a possibility of militants trying to move and carry out attacks, the loopholes are plugged in. But one has to see that the attacks are taking place in those areas which have been peaceful from the last 20 years. You take an example of Gulmarg, you take an example of Sonmarg, both of them have been peaceful, and there have been a lot of tourists on the ground. But now these attack places these attacks have taken place. This will be an issue for the security forces. How they will be able to deal with it, one has to wait and see. But for now, important for the forces and the security forces to get an assessment and see that how they will be able to tap in on the situation, contain the situation, because you have the army mostly operating in the area where this attack has taken place. And when you move towards Botapatri, there's an army controlled area where permission is sought even if you are going for the tourism purpose, and the permission is given by the district police, and then you are able to go through that particular area giving details of your people and the people who are accompanying you. But since, as I said, that line of control, Poonch Rajouri is closed, and there are several other areas which connect through the Gulmarg area, That's why it becomes very important for the forces to actually check where did they come from. Have they come in from Rajouri, Poonch? But sources indicating that there is a possibility of them coming in from Poonch, but that can also be a fresh infiltration, because there's been a route, as I said earlier, for them to infiltrate, particularly in the Kashmir Valley. So that is why there will be all kind of assessment that will be done. Top officials are visiting the spot. We are told that Army's top officers, including brigadier level officers, lieutenant colonel officers, and other top ranking officials are on the ground. They're taken to take the assessment, because these were two vehicles moving, and the ambush, we are told, was done from two sides to target the vehicle, as we have seen in Rajouri and Poonch, and the similar style has been found here as well. That the two sides they were firing, which took place on the vehicle, and then they escaped after firing for a very long time. So yes, one has to see that how will the forces be able to contain. But as you look right now, this tight security arrangement has been made. The forces are trying to ensure that they're able to contain the situation and ensure there are no further attacks which take place. Just yesterday, you had a non-local in Tral area of South Kashmir being targeted in the morning hours, and before that also. So there are possibilities that these attacks might grow. There would be inputs with the security agencies that there's a possibility of such attacks taking place. But how will be they able to contain it? They have to increase the security pressure. They have to see that where they will be able to generate inputs to ensure that the situation is brought under control.
Right, Ishan, thank you so much for bringing in all those details. Well, clearly it is a challenging situation for the security forces and the Indian Army, which is facing in their search operations in the dense forests near the line of control. Even the top officials are now stepping on the ground to assess the entire situation. First, let's take a look at some of the reactions that we are getting on this report.
ये वाकया अफसोसनाक एक वाकया है, क्योंकि एक नौजवान जो कि अपना रोज़गार कमाने के लिए आर्मी के साथ बहसीत पोर्टर काम कर रहा था, और ये कोई परमानेंट जॉब नहीं था. इट वाज ओनली फॉर 6 मंथ्स, और 6 महीने के बाद इनको फिर से इस काम से सबकदोश होना था. लेकिन कल रात को जब हमने ये ख़बर सुनी, और ये खबर सुन के ही पूरे नौशहरा में एक शौक सा पैदा हो गया सारे लोगों के दरमियान, क्योंकि एक बहुत छोटा एक नौजवान 27 साल इसकी उम्र है, जिसकी शादी हो गई है, एक 3 साल का बच्चा है. इसके वालिद साहब जो कि कैंसर पेशेंट है, और 2 साल से इनके पास कोई सोर्स ऑफ इनकम ऐसा नहीं था. तो इस वक्त सिर्फ इंसाफ की ज़रूरत है. आपने इसकी घर की हालत देखी होगी, बहुत खस्ता है.
आर्मी की जो मूवमेंट है वो अक्सर वैली में रहती है और अलग अलग जगह पर जाना उनका रहता है. इसी दौरान जिस प्रकार से कुछ आतंकी इस वक्त एक्टिव हुए हैं और इस प्रकार की वारदातों को अंजाम दे रहे हैं, तो ये सीरियस मैटर है. आर्मी के व्हीकल जब निकलते हैं, इकट्ठे होकर के निकलते हैं, इससे पहले भी कश्मीर में आर्मी पर अटैक करने का बहुत बार प्रयास किया गया. तो मुझे लगता है कि शायद उनको इस वक्त घेराबंदी की होगी. अभी पूरी जानकारी तो नहीं मिली है कि कितने लोग उसमें घायल हैं, जो अलग अलग चैनलों पर अलग अलग वो बात की जा रही है. तो मुझे लगता है कि जल्द उनको ढूंढ लिया जाएगा.
सेना का वाहन निकल रहा था. रात के अंधेरे में कायरों की भांति सेना के वाहन पर इन कायर आतंकवादियों ने हमला किया. ये बुज़दिल पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादी भारतीय सेना के जांबाज वीरों का आमना सामना तो कर नहीं सकते. रात के अंधेरे में छिपकर इन कायर आतंकवादियों ने सेना के वाहन को निशाना बनाया है. इस सारे क्षेत्र में सेना और पुलिस ने घेराबंदी की है. सर्च ऑपरेशन शुरू कर दिया गया है. इन आतंकवादियों को इनके गुनाहों की, इनके पापों की भारी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी.
Well, as security forces hunt down the attackers, the region remains on high alert. With tensions escalating, questions now arise about the safety of the valley's residents and the effectiveness of current security measures. Will peace be restored, or are we witnessing a deeper surge of the unrest in the valley? We'll continue to track more details, but now we're swiftly shifting our focus to India and Canada ties, where Indian diplomat Sanjay Verma unleashed a scathing attack on Canada after being labelled as a person of interest in the Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar's murder case. Now, Sanjay Verma didn't even mince his words, calling Canada's move a betrayal and a backstab to the diplomatic relations. He tore into the Trudeau government, accusing them of sheltering Khalistani terrorists, gun runners and human traffickers. Verma called Canada's action the lowest point in bilateral ties, slamming their approach as deeply unprofessional. Now, India has fiercely rejected the baseless claims of its involvement in Nijjar's killing, with Canada time and again failing to provide any concrete evidence to back their shocking allegations.
This demonstrates kind of a backstabbing that was done to us by our very professional colleagues. In the name of Khalistan, they do human trafficking, they do drug trafficking, they do gun running. So they earn a lot of money through that. Then these 10,000 intimidate others to join in. Example, someone will say that, I know where your daughter goes for education, studies. So people get intimidated. According to the last information that I have, 5 of them had been resolved, 21 are still pending. And these are pending since decade. So I would say that there is an inaction rather than consultation.
Well, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Siddhant Mishra, who will get us a better perspective with the diplomatic fallout. A very good morning, Siddhant. What specific actions will India take on the response to Canada's allegation and expulsion of diplomats? When we see this time and again, there is no end to the low point that we have received and come at in India-Canada's diplomatic relationships.
Well, look, Sakshi, this interview of Sanjay Verma, which he has given to an Indian news agency, perhaps is more of an emotional interview. And, the interview which he gave in Canada to a Canadian network was to the point. So in this interview, he has spoken about being backstabbed, being betrayed. And perhaps, he explained the entire scenario, that how the Canadian authorities were after him and his diplomats without any evidence, and how it is difficult for a high commissioner to operate in such circumstances, etc., etc. So this was his interview after returning to India. In fact, he also went on to explain the scenario. In fact, many young students want to go to Canada to pursue the further education. In fact, it was an advice which was given by him to the Indian students that it's not the best place to be to study anymore, because the colleges and the schools, how they are portrayed here in India, in reality it is something else. So his interview was an eye opener, perhaps not just about India-Canada relationship, but also the overall situation that is going on in Canada. And he was asked all sorts of questions also regarding the snooping charges and the diplomats involved in spying, etc. To which he said that it's his government's if somebody is his government's enemy, then he has to find out the basic information at least and send it to the New Delhi through publications, through newspapers, and it cannot be it can't come under the category of snooping. Perhaps for that there is a freedom there is a provision in the Vienna Convention also. So Sanjay Verma is in New Delhi, and in fact he has spoken to the news agency, and it's a very emotional interview that he did because he has been recalled by the Indian government after the diplomatic row erupted with Canada.
Right, Siddhant, thank you so much for bringing in all those details. We'll continue to track the story as the day progresses. But now we're shifting our focus to yet another breaking input. Now this one is on the LAC control. Now, defense sources to CNN News 18 have talked on the engagement part. Now, processes already started soon after the announcement, with the local commanders meeting the very next day. Now, as of today, some temporary tents from both the locations, Dipsang and Demchok, have been removed by both India and China. And this will take time, but local commanders are actually dealing with it as per the broader terms decided at senior levels. Troops are being removed and the troops are removing the tents, and it doesn't really mean that they are pulling back, but as soon as the temporary structures that are blocking the way are removed, patrolling will resume. Now, as reported earlier, troops are likely to remain deployed during the entire winter season, as this is just a disengagement. So these are the latest inputs that we are tracking from the ground, and Akash is joining us on the broadcast to give us a better perspective. Akash, a very good morning. How do you assess the impact of BRICS agreement on India-China relations, especially in light of these recent disengagement talks that we are seeing on the ground?
Right. So you see, Kuhina, as far as this development is concerned, so this is a big development indeed. We know that how Foreign Secretary announced it initially. Then the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping met on the sidelines of BRICS summit. And then, once again, it was reiterated that how agreement has reached where both the countries are going back to their old positions. Right. As of now, while we talk about the line of actual control, so we know that there are several points, several friction points. In fact, there were several friction points. And out of these friction points, Depsang and Demchok are the two areas, in fact, were the two areas where troops were standing eye to eye. But now, as far as the latest development is concerned, so we are learning that disengagement has started, where both the sides have removed their tents and in fact have started removing their tents. This is going to continue for next 4-5 days, and in next 4-5 days, Kuhina, we are expecting that patrolling will resume in Depsang and Demchok. Remember, in Depsang we have around 5 patrolling points, PP10, PP11, PP11A, 12 and 13, which were earlier blocked by the Chinese troops at 3 different positions in Depsang. They had erected their tents, one each at y-axis, and then one at patrol point 10 as well. And now we are learning that both the sides have agreed, and now they have started removing their tents from Depsang. Similarly, in Demchok, across in Demchok, with the Nala, they have 2 different places where they had erected their tents. Similarly, Indian side also had their tents, but in this area as well, they have started removing their tents. So we can say that disengagement has started, and as soon as these temporary structures will be removed, patrolling will resume. This is what officials say. We are expecting that in the next 4-5 days, patrolling will start. As far as, de-escalation and de-induction is concerned, so of course, this process is going to take time, and local commanders are meeting on a regular basis. In fact, we are learning that very soon Corps Commander level meeting will also happen. It has happened in the past few months. In fact, regularly Corps commanders have met, and in fact, they decided as to what would be the design of the disengagement. As far as current scenario is concerned, so it has started and it will be concluded. As far as disengagement is concerned, so it will be concluded in next 5 to 6 days, Kuhina.
Right, Akash, thank you so much for bringing in all those details and breaking it down for us. Well, India and China have already started the disengagement process. What largely remains to be seen is what will be the potential implications of this disengagement on regional security dynamics in the Southern Asia parts. Well, with all those news and updates, we're slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and two crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC.
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, now we are tracking some breaking inputs from Maharashtra ahead of the assembly elections. And this is a big breaking input where slain NCP leader Baba Siddiqui's son and former Mumbai Youth Congress president Zishan Siddiqui has now joined the NCP Ajit Pawar faction in Mumbai on Friday. Now, Siddiqui was actually expelled from Congress in the month of August on the grounds of anti-party activities. Now, NCP has immediately announced Zishan Siddiqui as their party candidate from Bandra East constituency for the upcoming assembly polls, and he'll be facing Shiv Sena UBT's Varun Sardesai from the seat this time. So these are the latest inputs that we're tracking from the ground. Let's hear out all the reactions.
It's an emotional day for me and my family, and I'm thankful to Ajit Pawar Dada, Praful Patel ji, Sunil Tatkare ji for believing me in these tough times. And I have got the nomination from Bandra East, and I'm sure that with the love and support of all the people, I will definitely win Bandra East yet again.
Well, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Mehrotra from the ground in Maharashtra. Very good morning, Mehrotra. Sudden change and a big change ahead of the Maharashtra Assembly elections. What has prompted actually Zishan Siddiqui's shift from BJP to Congress and now to NCP?
Zishan was a Congress MLA from Bandra East constituency, but 2 days back when Uddhav Thackeray-led Shiv Sena announced their first list, in that particular first list they had given AB form, or we can say ticket to Varun Sardesai from that constituency. And according to the sources in Zishan's camp, they basically think that was the trigger point. Because if you remember, Zishan's father, late Baba Siddiqui, had joined NCP led by Ajit Pawar faction. And he joined well before the Lok Sabha election. At that time, there were news that even Zishan may go. But Zishan didn't go, and he stayed in Congress and he worked for the Congress party. But after he got the confirmation that the Congress is not going to get that particular constituency and Congress is not keen to fight against Shiv Sena for that particular constituency, and that constituency is going to go to Shiv Sena UBT. So after officially declaring that Varun Sardesai will be the Mahavikas Aghadi's official candidate, now Zishan has switched to Ajit Pawar-led NCP, and he will be. He has already been given AB form by the party and the party's national president Ajit Pawar, and he will be contesting election against Varun Sardesai, but this time on the ticket of NCP and not on the Congress. Back to you.
Right, Mehresh, help us understand NCP's strategy. What strategic advantages does NCP will be gaining by having Zishan Siddiqui on their side, especially with the release of their second list now?
So if you remember that in 2019, or we can say till 2019, NCP was having only one MLA, that was Nawab Malik, in entire Mumbai, and they used to contest only one or two. But this time NCP has demanded more than 2 tickets, and it is likely that almost 3 tickets NCP will get in this entire negotiation. Now, if we talk about Bandra East constituency, it's a Muslim-dominated constituency. Baba Siddiqui and Zishan have basically, if you say Baba Siddiqui has dominated this particular constituency, and after that, from 2019, Zishan has also worked very well in this particular constituency, and that's why NCP is confident that if we give ticket to Zishan, he will certainly win. But on second hand, we can see that Sena UBT has also fielded a young gun like a Varun Sardesai, who is basically going to give a very close fight, or we can say very tough fight to Zishan Siddiqui, because Varun is also determined to win this particular constituency, and from past 1.5 years, Varun is working in that particular constituency.
Right, Mehresh, thank you so much for bringing in all those details. Well, this is a crucial update, and especially in terms of the local response, it will be important and very interesting to see how do voters in Zishan Siddiqui's constituency view his party changes, and will it actually influence their voting decisions. Now, we're shifting our focus to the eastern parts of the country, where Cyclone Dana has officially made landfall near Odisha's Bhitarkarnika National Park and Dhamra Port early in the wee hours this morning. Now, the Indian Meteorological Department has issued a red warning for 7 districts, including key areas like Mayurbhanj, Cuttack and Balasore. Now, evacuations are underway, with approximately 3 to 4 lakh people who have already moved from high-risk areas. Now, the National Disaster Response Force is actively conducting awareness campaigns along the coast. In a bid to ensure safety, visits to Jagannath Temple in Puri have also been restricted. Over 400 trains have now been cancelled and flights are suspended as the storm impacts the region. Meanwhile, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is in the Secretariat control room, staying throughout the night with the senior bureaucrats to monitor the situation closely. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also actively monitoring the developments and has discussed the response with Odisha Chief Minister Mohan Charan Majhi on a call.
साइक्लोन दाना का जो प्रभाव है वो केंद्रापड़ा भितरकनिका के अंदर पूरी तरह दिखा गया है, क्योंकि रात भर यहाँ पर तेज हवा चलने के साथ अगर देखेंगे लंबे लंबे लहर वो भी आ गया जनबसती की तरफ से, और दूसरी तरफ हम देखेंगे तो हवा भी इतना जोर से चला कि वहां पर बहुत सारे नुकसान हुआ है। हम तस्वीर दिखाएंगे एक इलेक्ट्रिक पोल का जो जहां उखड़ गया है पूरी तरह, वो लोहे की जो एक पोल था वो पूरी तरह उखड़ के रास्ते पे पड़ गया है। इतना जोर से हवा कल रात में चल रहा था, जिसका प्रभाव से वो इलेक्ट्रिक पोल है वो उखड़ गया है, और पेड़ भी है, पेड़ भी ऐसे टूट गया है। आप देख के अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि साइक्लोन का प्रभाव कितना जोर से यहाँ पर था, और जहाँ लैंडफॉल हो रहा था इसलिए यहाँ पर बहुत ज्यादा हवा चल रही थी। रात भर लगातार हवा चल रही थी, बारिश हो रहा था, उसके साथ जो समुद्र का लहर है वो भी बहुत जोर से चल रहा था, जिसके वजह से हम देखेंगे तो यहाँ पर बहुत सारे नुकसान हुआ है। एक तरफ जो बोट है, जो फिशरमैन की बोट है, वो आप देख सकते हैं वो पूरी तरह उलट गया है, कुछ बोट टूट गया है, और इसके साथ हम देखेंगे जो इलेक्ट्रिक पोल है वो भी उखड़ गया है और उसके साथ अब पेड़ देखेंगे वो भी टूट गया है। तो साइक्लोन का प्रभाव बहुत जोर से था, लेकिन हालांकि अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा हालात में सुधार हो रहा है, थोड़ा हवा कम रहा है और इसके साथ बारिश भी कम रहा है।
देखिए, चक्रवाती तूफान दाना उड़ीसा के तट को टकरा चुका है और ये साइक्लोन आगे बढ़ चुका है। फिलहाल देर रात ये टकराव हुआ था और रात गुजरने के बाद जब दिन का उजाला आता है तो इस तरह के नज़ारे उड़ीसा के जगह जगह देखने के लिए मिल रहा है। फिलहाल हम भद्रक में हैं और भद्रक में ये धामरा का जो पोर्ट है उसके आसपास का इलाका है। आप देख सकते हैं जहां तक आपकी नजरें जा रही हैं पेड़ ही पेड़ उखड़ कर यहाँ सड़क पे पड़े हैं। सिर्फ एक दो जगह नहीं, सैकड़ों की संख्या में पेड़ उखड़ कर सड़क पे पड़े हैं। एनडीआरएफ की टीम को बुलाया गया है, एनडीआरएफ की टीम अभी आती होगी। सिर्फ पेड़ नहीं गिरे हैं, जो इलेक्ट्रिक के तार थे वो भी बिखरे पड़े हैं। थोड़ा आगे हम कैमरा पर्सन चेतन को कहना चाहते, थोड़ा आगे आपको लेके जाए। ये जो सड़क है ये सड़क समुद्र और जो रिहायशी इलाका है उसके बीच में एक बांध या फिर दीवार की काम कर रहा है और ये दीवार ढहा नहीं है, ये दीवार लड़ा है समुद्र के पानी के साथ और ये हवा के साथ भी ये लड़ा है। और ये इस तरह के नज़ारे आप देख सकते हैं, जगह जगह बहुत बड़ी बड़ी पेड़े ये सड़क पे अभी भी फिलहाल ज्यों के त्यों पड़े हैं। अभी इंतजार किया जा रहा है एनडीआरएफ की टीमें कब आएंगे और कब इनको हटाएंगी।
A cyclone Dana is coming close and it's going to have its landfall in the middle of the night between Puri and Gangasagar in an area near Dhamra. The situation in Puri is also becoming difficult now. This is the condition of sea in Puri. Very rough sea. No tourists there. You can see that continuous siren miking is going on. Only police personnel.
टाइम लगेगा, 1 से 2 घंटा लगेगा, अनदर 1 or 2 hours लगेगा। उसका बाद उसका मूवमेंट रहेगा मोस्टली वेस्ट नॉर्थ वेस्टवर्ड और अक्रॉस नॉर्थ उड़ीसा एंड धीरे धीरे दुर्बल मतलब वीक होने का संभावना है इनटू ए साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म। आज फोरनून तक साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म में परिणत होने का संभावना है।
Well, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Kamalika, who is on ground zero at the moment. A very good morning, Kamalika. I hope you're safe. And are there any reports of casualties or missing person that we've been reported? We are getting reports of so far.
See, till now, no, and that's what also is the challenge of the Mohan Maji government, because this is the first cyclone which he is managing after Navin Patnaik. And Odisha has set a very high benchmark of 0 casualty already.
Right.
So what right now we are getting information is that a lot of houses have been damaged, a lot of trees have fallen, and a lot of damage has taken place in Bhitarkanika, Kendrapara, Rajnagar of Kendrapara, where in the landfall actually was very close to this Bhitarkanika area. There the NDRF team has started working, and NDRF and the Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force is working out there. Since there was so much of alertness by the state government, that is the reason for which more than 6 lakh people are already shifted to safe shelters, flood shelters, cyclone shelters. So till now, no casualty information, even after such a big cyclone, severe cyclone passes. Let's keep our fingers crossed, because till the news is like it's coming. Bhitarkanika is a natural park where there are a lot of crocodiles. It's a crocodile park in this area. So we'll have to really see what happens. But a lot of trees have fallen. Gusty winds are still blowing in this area, and Bhadrak. Bhadrak, the most worst affected area are Chanmal of Bhadrak and Kendrapara, Rajnagar and Pottimundu of Kendrapara. So we'll have to really see what the devastation is there.
Right. Kamalika, also help us understand, like you've been time and again repeating that many people have been evacuated so far, but what's the plan for those still who are trapped in the high-risk areas?
See, almost we can say, this is the plus point of the government, that most of the since, for the last 7 days, this alert was there, and the government chalked out a plan, and they closed all the school, colleges, and all the senior ministers were there, posted in the 14 sensitive districts where it has an effect. So they have evacuated 6 lakhs, more than 6 lakhs people in Orissa, and around more than 3 lakh people in Bengal. So definitely there are in Kendrapara, in Dhamra, which is also a port, there might be some people who are stuck, but more or less this is a very well managed cyclone by the state government, no doubt.
Right, Kamalika, thank you so much for bringing all those details. Well, clearly the government response and preparations have been swift enough. The measures are being taken by the Odisha government to ensure public safety. Now let's take a look at some of the reactions on this report.
Mr. Patra, what's the situation right now? You have reviewed the situation.
See, first and foremost, I'm very thankful to the state government, the cooperation of the state government. I'm thankful to the Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Mohan Charan Majhi ji, and all the ministers of Orissa government, because many days before, they have already sounded us about the cyclone. They are all prepared for the cyclone. And I'm very thankful to the meteorological department, because their predictions from time to time, they're predicting as to how the cyclone is moving, how the depression is moving, which are the areas in Orissa which are likely to be affected. So Puri being one of them. It's as of today, as of now, while we are discussing, Puri is under orange alert. Orange alert means somewhere around 60 to 90 kilometers per hour. That would be the strength of the wind that would be blowing over here. We may have maximum up to 20 mm rainfall also. So in fact, this is a zone in where people may face a lot of inconvenience. So I had a preparatory meeting with the collector of the area and the other officers also, as to how we can best save people, how we can best safeguard their interest, cattle also, and as to how precautionary measures have to be taken.
Well, we just heard Sambit Patra sending out a note that the government is doing all that is available on the ground to make sure that people remain safe. Now, the National Disaster Response Force is also actively conducting awareness campaigns along the coast, and in a bid to ensure safety, visits to the Jagannath temple in Puri have also been restricted. Over 400 trains have already been cancelled and flights are being suspended as the storm impacts the region. Let's take a look at this ground report.
It was midnight when Dana did the land strike. The landfall took place started from around 11:12 and it continued till today morning. Right now the landfall process is over. The most affected area is Kendrapara. That's what we are coming to know. The landfall took place as expected between Dhamra and Bhitarkanika. That was the eye there where the landfall took place, and there has been huge devastation there. And in Puri, now you can see that the tourists, they have come back to the beach, because since yesterday this was the red flag beyond which they were not allowed. They were miking, sirening, everything was done, but now today the waves are much calmer than what it was yesterday. So back on track for the tourists. Good news for the tourists, because a lot of tourists, they did not go back, but they were not allowed to go into the beach all yesterday and day before yesterday. So now today they are back. Orissa Chief Minister himself monitored the entire situation. The most affected area is Kendrapara and Bhadrak. We really have to see that what type of devastation took place there. Near about 10 lakh people were actually removed from their low-lying areas, and they were taken to the flood-sheltered areas. So definitely devastation has taken place, but a lot of alertness has actually, will that also lead to zero casualty this time, as Naveen Patnaik has already set the mark with big cyclones and zero casualty. That was a big challenge.
Well, this breaking input is regarding Lawrence Bishnoi's brother, Now, amid the spate of attacks, Lawrence Bishnoi's brother is now on the NIA's radar. Now, Lawrence Bishnoi's brother Anmol has been declared most wanted by NIA with a 10 lakh rupees reward for any information about him. Remember, Anmol Bishnoi has been involved in many cases in several crimes before this, including the murder of Baba Siddiqui and threatening of Bollywood actor Salman Khan. Now, NIA's investigation has been over Lawrence Bishnoi's gang for its role in various terror and criminal activities. Now, so far, a 10 lakh rupee reward has been announced for any information that leads us up to Anmol Bishnoi and Anmol Bishnoi's capture. Now, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Arunima. Very good morning, Arunima. What's NIA's agenda to apprehend Anmol Bishnoi and dismantle the gang?
So Anmol Bishnoi was initially named in that FIR about the gangster terror network, and in that there has been a charge sheet which has been filed by the National Investigation Agency. Two separate investigations have found Anmol Bishnoi, as per NIA, enough proof against him, and since he is still absconding, NIA on its website and under the most wanted column has now named Anmol Bishnoi and announced a reward of 10 lakh rupees for anybody who can provide any information about him. It is suspected that though Lawrence Bishnoi is in jail, he is in Sabarmati jail, his gang continues to operate, and Anmol Bishnoi, the suspicion of NIA is that he is one of those who's continuing to keep the Lawrence Bishnoi gang active and thriving and carrying out crimes. Because he is outside, he is still absconding. Hence the reward of 10 lakhs, one of the highest rewards that NIA usually announces.
Right, Arunima. Thank you so much for bringing in all those details. Well, with a 10 lakh rupee reward on his head, Anmol Bishnoi remains at large, fueling concerns about India's escalating gang violence. With that, we are slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relation between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and two crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, now we are tracking some breaking inputs from Karnataka's Shivamogga, where in a shocking display of reckless behavior, an incident took place in Shivamogga when a car dragged a traffic police officer on its bonnet after the man actually attempted to evade a routine vehicle check. So these are the latest inputs that we are tracking from the ground, where the officer attempting to perform his own duties was left clinging to the bonnet as the driver sped away. Now this is a shocking display of reckless behavior where a car driver in Shivamogga dragged a traffic police officer on the bonnet of the vehicle after being signaled to stop for a routine check. Now the visuals are being displayed on your TV screens. Let's take a look. Well, these are the latest inputs and information that we're tracking from the ground. According to the report, this is a shocking display of reckless behavior where a car driver in Shivamogga actually dragged a traffic police officer on the bonnet of the vehicle after being signaled to stop for a routine check. Now the officer was actually attempting to perform his duties and was left clinging to the bonnet as the driver sped away. Now joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Sudhit Bhardwaj. A very good morning, Sudhit. What is the condition of the officer at the moment and has the driver been identified?
Yes, officer has narrowly escaped any kind of risk. While we hear cases of police brutality, we also equally hear a lot of cases of traffic cops being assaulted by commuters or traffic cops being put under danger by commuters. So
Indeed.
Just during a routine check, it seems, he tried to halt this car, but the driver has just sped away to escape, and even in an attempt to almost run over this cop, he has sped away, and for a good 100 meters this cop was actually carried right on the car bonnet. But yes, the cop has escaped. There's no significant risk to his life. He's out of danger, and the driver has been identified as Mithun Jagadale. He's supposed to be a cable operator in Bhadravati of Shivamogga, and he has been arrested by the Shivamogga Traffic West Police. So this is what we hear as of now. He has been booked by the Shivamogga Traffic West Police, and the incident did take place yesterday afternoon, and yes, he has been booked, as we can confirm.
Right, so thank you so much for bringing in all those details. Well, clearly this is a horrific video that we've been tracking and it is a reckless case. Now we're slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more news and updates on the other side of the segment.
to you by Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and 2 crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok.
Hello and a very good morning to all our viewers. You're watching the breaking on CNN News 18 and I'm Singh. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be walking you through the top headlines from the nation and across the globe. At the top of this segment, taking you straight to Jammu and Kashmir. In a shocking escalation of violence in Jammu and Kashmir, 2 army personnel and 2 civilian porters were killed when terrorists attacked an army vehicle in Gulmarg. This brazen attack occurred near Nagin Post, leaving 2 more soldiers injured who are at the moment receiving medical treatment at the hospital. This incident in fact comes on the heels of another attack in Pulwama, where a labourer was shot and injured just hours earlier than this attack, days after terror attack in Gandarbal as well. In response to this, a large-scale search operation is now underway in the nearby forest to track down the terrorists. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has condemned this particular attack, calling the recent surge in violence a serious concern for the Union territory.
ये बड़े अफसोस की बात है, इसकी जितनी मजम्मत करें वो कम है। जैसे कि आपने देखा, बिल्कुल बेगुनाह लोगों को गगनगिर में जो है परसों उनकी जाने ज़ाया हुई। उसमें एक डॉक्टर भी थे जो बडगाम कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी से ताल्लुक़ रखते थे और हमारे जम्मू से कुछ लोग थे और बाहर के जो आए हुए थे उनसे, और ज़ख्मी काफ़ी लोग थे उसमें। हम तो चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब वहाँ खुद भी गए थे, सोरा उनको देखने। पिछले 30-35 साल से हम इस मुसीबत में घिरे हुए हैं और उम्मीद थी कि जैसे पहले भी इन्होंने कहा था कि काफ़ी सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन जो है वो कंट्रोल में आ गई है, लेकिन ग्राउंड की हकीकत कुछ और है। आज जैसे जो खबर आई है गुलमर्ग में जो नागिन एरिया है वहाँ हमला हुआ आर्मी पे, इसकी तो और भी ज़्यादा तशवीश है क्योंकि ये बिल्कुल सिक्योर्ड एरिया है, आर्मी की वहाँ बहुत प्रेजेंस है, वहाँ इस किस्म के हमले होना काफ़ी तशवीश की बात है। इसमें इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि यहाँ रियासत को बहाल करना बहुत ज़रूरी है।
एक तरफ हम कह रहे हैं कि हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान को आपस में बातचीत का अमल शुरू करना चाहिए, तो दूसरी तरफ इस तरह के हमले किस तरह देख रहे हैं?
देखिए, बातचीत का जो सिलसिला, जैसे अभी हमारे फॉरेन मिनिस्टर वहाँ गए थे तो वहाँ के जो लीडर हैं नवाज शरीफ साहब, उन्होंने भी कहा था कि उन्होंने काफ़ी वक्त ज़ाया किया है और एक तरह से उन्होंने अपनी गलती का एतराफ़ भी किया। अगर उनको लगता है कि उनकी जो कंडक्ट रही वो सही नहीं है तो उम्मीद करेंगे कि वो इन चीज़ों को बढ़ावा ना दें।
बड़ी दुखद घटना है और कायरतापूर्ण कृत्य है। तो ये समझना चाहिए कि पाकिस्तान प्रायोजित आतंकवाद आज भी कहीं ना कहीं उनकी जड़ें कश्मीर में हैं और हालांकि सरकार ने और सुरक्षा बलों ने ज़ीरो टॉलरेंस की नीति को लेकर के बहुत काम किया है, लेकिन जब इस प्रकार की घटना होती है तो चिंता होना स्वाभाविक बात है। लेकिन ये समझना होगा कि संदिग्ध जहाँ भी पाए जाएं वहाँ पर लोगों को भी थोड़ा एक्टिव रहना होगा, क्योंकि पहले भी ओवरग्राउंड वर्कर्स, अंडरग्राउंड वर्कर्स पर बड़ा एक्शन हुआ है।
इसमें कोई शक नहीं है कि जम्मू कश्मीर पिछले 35 साल से मिलिटेंसी से जूझ रहा है और कभी ये थोड़ा सा थम जाता है, कभी शुरू हो जाता है। ये एक कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस बन गया है और ये स्ट्रेटजिक्स है। कुछ ताकतें नहीं चाहती हैं कि जम्मू कश्मीर में डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेस जो है वो चले, वो बहाल हो। वो इन चीज़ों की ताक में रहते हैं कि कोई ना कोई वाक़ा किया जाए। और ये भी हकीकत है कि जिस दिन असम्बली के अंदर ऑथ हुई इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव की, उसके बाद 2-3 दिन इकट्ठे कंटिन्यूसली हो रहा है। तो इससे सीधा साजिश लग रही है कि डेमोक्रेटिक सेटअप को पनपने नहीं देना है। इन ताकतों से नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस ने पहले भी मुकाबला किया है, अभी भी कर रहे हैं और आइंदा भी करेंगे।
Yes, CNN News 18's Ishan Wani joining us live from Gulmarg. Ishan, it's certainly a matter of a huge concern at the moment for the Union Territory. We are looking at not just the army personnel being attacked, but now the non-locals are also under the attack of the terrorists. At this point of time, we believe that it's high time that, you know, the Chief Minister of the Union Territory as well as LG do sit down, pen down a proper strategy to eradicate the root cause.
Well, that's why you saw yesterday a unified high command meeting was chaired by Lieutenant Governor, where top officials from the Indian Army, including the Northern Army Commander, the Lieutenant Generals and other top Army officers and police and intelligence officers sat down and discussed to what really was happening, and then Lieutenant Governor was also given a brief representation about how the situation is. There's a clear message from the government that they want the operations to continue and the searches to being carried out in these areas, particularly those who have been vulnerable now, given the fact that there has been peace in these areas, including Sonmarg, this Butapatri area, by and large have been peaceful. Now, since there have been attacks in these locations, there will be an increase in the number of forces on the ground, and there has to be an increase because these attacks have come at a time when we have seen for more than a month there was peace on the ground, and what peace ensured is that the reduction in the number of forces on certain locations where things were calmer. But if you look at this attack, the area is close to also Punch and the line of control. The footprints and the sort of attack that has taken place here indicates that there is a possibility of attackers might have come in from Punch and then held themselves up in these mountains for some time. Look for the movement of these vehicles which take place generally during the evening time, because there were also civilian porters who were part of the army's convoy, because there were two convoys which were moving at the time, the two bus trucks which were moving, and we are told by sources that from two directions there was a fire drawn towards these vehicles. Indiscriminate fire was done, and which resulted in maximum casualties, and the target was to inflict more damage on the Indian Army. Two Indian Army personnel personnel lost their life, were killed in action, and you also have 2 civilian porters who also died because of
My
that
apologies
gunfire.
for interrupting you over there,
Apart from
because you
them,
have highlighted something very crucial here, the footprints that we have just spoken of. You have given out a very important information here. Let me just reiterate over that. Security sources have informed CNN News 18 that the attack on the army vehicle happened from 2 sides. An ambush was laid by the terrorist who opened indiscriminate fire on them. There was also an attempt to snatch rifles from the army truck. The style is very similar to what has been seen in Poonch and Rajouri. The area is connected to Poonch on one side and also has a line of control running by something that has been mentioned by Ishan Mani already. There in fact is a possibility of terrorists coming in from Poonch, as forces have built up pressure at that location. Ishan, coming back to you, apologies for earlier. Now, but if you could talk about the footprints that you have just mentioned and talk about the pattern that has to be now read by the security personnel over there, what all they have understood from the pattern, or if they have tracked the movement, because these things do not happen overnight. A proper recce must have been done, a proper plan must have been laid out for it.
Well, yes, what similarity is being seen between the attacks in Rajouri and Poonch and this particular attack, because you have similar attacks have taken place in Rajouri, Poonch, where they have opened fire at the army vehicles or targeted the Indian Army personnel during those, in those mountainous peaks. And then it's a similar kind of attack that we have seen here, that they target from 2 sides and they attack the Indian Army vehicle. There were 2 vehicles which are moving, and what we have been told is that there were at least 18 personnel who were traveling in these 2 buses, where the bus came under heavy fire, these trucks came under heavy fire, which resulted in injuries, and they tried to inflict maximum casualties. We have seen in Rajouri and Poonch that similar kind of attacks have taken place, and we haven't seen these attacks take place in Kashmir from at least last 4 or 5 years, where army or any security force personnel, a bus comes under attack from the militants. What has been happening here is that the most number of non-locals have been targeted, and we saw in Sonmarg, even when Gagangir attack took place, that not only non-locals but anyone who was part of that particular project, they were targeted. But this is different, that there they had an idea that they will hit the Indian Army truck, that they will try to cause maximum casualties, they will fire at it, and they will try to then run away, because these are both mountainous areas and mountains are just surrounding these particular locations. So that is why they try to attack and then try to escape and then try to blend themselves into the mountain and the dense forest range which covers this entire belt. And given the fact that the Poonch and Rajouri area, and Poonch is just adjacent to these mountains on the other side, there's a possibility that they could have come from that side, because for more than a month there was a silence on the ground. Even during the election time, things were very calm in Kashmir, and after elections got over, there seems to be a renewed push to attack, to carry out certain attacks. We have seen it in Sonmarg, because in Sonmarg also you have the mountains and those areas which were targeted, those hutments of the workers, they are just adjacent to the mountain range and the forest range, and there's a possibility that 2 attackers who opened fire with sophisticated weapons including AK-47 and M4 might have escaped in these mountains. And similar could be seen in this particular case as well. Let me give you an idea how the mountain ranges. I'll ask my VJ Mohammed Ayub to pan and show you that these mountain ranges, as you see, are very dense, and behind these mountain ranges, if you go through that, trekking through that area, then you will technically enter Rajouri, Poonch area. So that is why what security forces suspect is that there's a possibility of them coming in from Poonch, or there's a possibility of infiltration having taken place recently. Now this particular belt has been one of the traditional routes of infiltration for the outfits like Jaish-e-Mohammed, who have come in during the 90s using that particular track. But ever since then it has been calm and peaceful here in Gulmarg, and things have been really calm. But now, since this attack has taken place, there will be a lot of change in the SOPs. The forces will try to ensure that there is proper frisking taking place, and as we are seeing that the J&K police has been deployed to frisk through this particular area to ensure that any vehicle which is going towards that location is checked properly. The tourists are moving smoothly because there was an apprehension that the tourists might get scared. But as we see that tourists have been coming in numbers to visit Gulmarg, this is a very famous tourist location, and now there will be an enhanced security cover in these locations. locations and these venues, you will see the police has been deployed and CRPF has also been deployed to check, frisk and see properly that if there is any suspicious vehicle, that is checked and questions have been asked to them that why they are going there, and then they are allowed to move ahead. Media has been stopped here. The media hasn't been allowed to go through that to that location because there's a proper investigation, a combing operation which is underway. That area where the attack has taken place is manned by the Indian Army, and it is generally scanned. You don't get permission to visit that area since it's a forward area, is very close. You have to seek permission if you for a tourist to visit that particular area. So it's a very an area where one would not have expected an attack to take place, and that is what these militants have tried to choose. They have tried to choose a location where guard is a little down and forces are not so alert because there has been peace. There is also high altitude warfare school which is just adjacent to the area where the attack has taken place, where the army men are trained every year for the high altitude warfare, particularly during the winter months, and they are taught skiing skills. They are taught avalanche skills in the high altitude warfare school. So yes, this is a cause of concern for the security force and agencies. Now one has to see that what kind of strategy do they follow and how they are able to devise a plan to ensure that these attacks do not take place, are not replicated, but the militants seem to have upped their ante and they are trying to maximize the number of attacks. Yes, yesterday you had a non-local being shot at in his hand. Lucky that he escaped unhurt but got some injury in his hand. Even before that in Shopian, then it happened. So it seems like that there is an attempt to derail peace, and how the security force will be able to deal with it, one has to wait and see. And in coming days you will see there will be enhanced security on the ground. Patrolling will increase. There will be a monitoring of sensitive areas through drones, and even as we speak the army is trying to keep a surveillance of that particular area where the attack has taken place using helicopters.
Right, Ishan, thank you so much for all of those details. In fact, showing us a bit of the idea about the topography of the location that you are currently reporting from. Would request you to please take care of yourself as well. We have a reaction also coming in over the same story. Let's take a look at that, since Ishan has already mentioned the victim of the terrorist attack yesterday there in Gulmarg. Let's take a look at what victim's kin has to say about all of this.
ये वाकया अफसोसनाक एक वाकया है, क्योंकि एक नौजवान जो कि अपना रोज़गार कमाने के लिए आर्मी के साथ वैसे पोर्टर काम कर रहा था, और ये कोई परमानेंट जॉब नहीं था. इट वाज ओनली फॉर 6 मंथ्स, और 6 महीने के बाद इनको फिर से इस काम से सबकदोश होना था. लेकिन कल रात को जब हमने ये ख़बर सुनी, और ये खबर सुन के ही पूरे नौशहरा में एक शौक सा पैदा हो गया सारे लोगों के दरमियान, क्योंकि एक बहुत छोटा एक नौजवान 27 साल इसकी उम्र है, जिसकी शादी हो गई है, एक 3 साल का बच्चा है. इसके वालिद साहब जो कि कैंसर पेशेंट है, और 2 साल से इनके पास कोई सोर्स ऑफ इनकम ऐसा नहीं था. तो इस वक्त सिर्फ इंसाफ की ज़रूरत है. आपने इसकी घर की हालत देखी होगी, बहुत खस्ता है.
Shifting focus, Indian diplomat Sanjay Verma unleashed a scathing attack on Canada after being labelled a quote-unquote person of interest in the Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar's murder. Sanjay Verma did not mince his words while talking about Canada's move, a betrayal and a backstab to diplomatic relations between India and Canada. He in fact tore into the Trudeau government, accusing them of sheltering Khalistani terrorists, gun runners as well as human traffickers. Verma in fact called Canada's actions the lowest point in bilateral ties, slamming their approach as deeply unprofessional. India in fact has fiercely rejected the baseless claims of the involvement in Nijjar's killing, with Canada failing to provide any evidence to back their shocking allegations at the same time.
This demonstrates kind of a backstabbing that was done to us by our very professional colleagues. In the name of Khalistan, they do human trafficking, they do drug trafficking, they do gun running. So they earn a lot of money through that. Then these 10,000 intimidate others to join in. For example, someone will say that, I know where your daughter goes for education, studies. So people get intimidated. According to the last information that I have, 5 of them had been resolved, 21 are still pending. And these are pending since decade. So I would say that there is an inaction rather than consultation.
Shifting focus to the state of Orissa now, cyclone Dana has officially made a landfall near Orissa's Bhitarkarnika National Park and Damra Port early in the wee hours this morning itself. The India Meteorological Department has now issued a red warning for 7 districts including key areas like Mayurbhanj, Cuttack and Balasore. Evacuations are now underway with approximately 3 to 4 lakh people already moved from high-risk areas. The National Disaster Response Force is actively conducting awareness campaigns along the coast. Now, in a bid to ensure safety, visits to Jagannath Temple in Puri have been restricted. Over 400 trains